Coming to you from Dynatrace Perform in Las Vegas, it's Pure Performance.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Pure Performance and Perf Bites, coming to you from Perform2020 in Las Vegas. Our man on the street, Andi Grabner, has sent us a few interviews, which we've compiled in this episode. There's a short musical interlude between each, so be sure to stay tuned in. Take it away, Andi.
Welcome to another Pure Performance Cafe episode today, live from Vegas. I know there's a little background noise here because people are running around, probably finding the next session. Talking about the next session, I just bumped into Sonja and into Daniel. Hey.
Hi, Andy.
Hi, Andy. Hey, how are you?
Good. Excited about the sessions.
Yeah. So you are actually talking about the sessions. I know we only have a couple of minutes because you need to rush over. But you have a session coming up, and it's called The Role of Dynatrace in OpenTelemetry. Mm-hmm. Right? I think, was it this year, last year? We had a session with a podcast already, and with also, Sonja, we did performance clinic as well.
Yeah, it was last year.
That's right.
Last year in fall. So you know, you have heard last year about lots of new words coming up, like observability, like OpenTelemetry, merging from open tracing, open sensors. We also talked a lot about trace context. So a lot of them are around distributed tracing and observability as a whole are coming to the industry. And some of the words I think we know, and some of the things are new things like OpenTelemetry. And we want to give an opportunity to tell the people what it is all about and how Dynatrace plays a role in that. And Daniel is really interesting because he has been working with.
Well, he's interesting, of course. Yeah.
So, you know, Daniel is the most interesting person. One of the most. You maybe second or third.
All right, come on, back to the topic. What's happening here?
So because of the contribution that we made to OpenTelemetry, maybe Daniel, you want to say a little bit?
So what people are like most probably surprised about is that we are amongst the top contributors to OpenTelemetry as a vendor. So we are heavily investing into that whole topic. So we have a whole team sitting on it and collaborating with the community. There are a few things that are good for Dynatrace good things coming out for Dynatrace by doing so. First of all, we learn a lot around that. Mm-hmm. Also, how we collaborate with other companies, how decisions are made, etc. So this is the whole open source idea helps a lot. But also, as Dynatrace, we want at some point also utilize what OpenTelemetry produces, mm-hmm. and as a vendor with over 10 years of experience in monitoring, of course we know, or our knowledge is pretty much battle tested. So there are years of support issues and
mm-hmm.
and things we figured out along the way that are built into what mm-hmm. Dynatrace does. So we want to have at least, or striving to have at least, the basic stability that we would expect from Dynatrace there. And one important point, of course, I think also maybe Sonja want to talk about it, is of course that OpenTelemetry is purely about data collection. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about analytics, how the data is then displayed.
It's a really, really important one, but it's also important to notice that it's not OpenTelemetry versus one agent. You know, people start to hear OpenTelemetry. Is it going to be something newer than one agent? Is it going to replace it? And we see OpenTelemetry as an additional tool that we have Dynatrace as a possibility, as an opportunity to collect additional data for mm-hmm. specific use cases. So it's not a one agent or Dynatrace versus OpenTelemetry. It's everybody working together to reach the best value for our customers.
Perfect. Yeah, in the end, it should not matter for a customer what underlying agent technology is used. We as Dynatrace also decide that, for instance, now for serverless environments, we are using OpenTelemetry just because in serverless you don't need so much like what the one agent mm-hmm. provides. One agent provides a lot more mm-hmm. than OpenTelemetry does, but for a pure serverless function where you don't need this deep code level visibility, for instance, or CPU stats of a function that runs just a few milliseconds, there you just can go for a simpler approach. This is where we're working.
I think you put it nicely. You said OpenTelemetry is about data collection. That's clear, right? So that means it can be used by people that where maybe the one agent is too powerful, or maybe where the one agent is just not a fit. So you can then still use OpenTelemetry to ingest data into Dynatrace, where then all the analytics obviously comes into play. Now you also mentioned there's other companies obviously part of that. Do you have? Are you presenting on yourself? Do you have anybody with you at this show?
So Morgan McLean from Google will join us for this session, and he is one of the original product manager at Google for OpenCensus, and OpenCensus was that one project that was merged with OpenTracing to form OpenTelemetry.
Perfect. So you have Morgan with you.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
to explain to our user what is OpenTelemetry all about, what is the roadmap, what is the long-term vision.
Yeah. And I have to say that working like with Google and Microsoft and others is really, really valuable there. So it's also a lot of fun. We enjoy a lot collaborating with those companies. And they, like Google, will build that or builds in OpenTelemetry into their stack driver logic, and also trace context, what we talked about before. So these are also opportunities to also open up Dynatrace more. When there is a common standard to do things, and we cannot always assume that there is a one agent in place, then it's easy for us to create the best solution to ingest this data, and this is.
We want to be open and flexible.
Yeah, we want to be open, flexible. Of course, if there are 20 solutions, it's hard to be flexible. Now you have to then support a lot of things, but the more standardized things get, also in this open source space, also with trace context, the easier it is for vendors as a whole to support those different these things.
Very cool. So maybe if you want to sum it up for people that are not able to see it live, but maybe that watch the recording later on, can you give me? We already talked a lot about this, but 2 or 3 additional takeaways. What will people learn when they see the session?
So the session is axed around three main topics. First one, what is OpenTelemetry? Just common. What is happening, what is the project, what it is, what is the next step. Then Daniel, this is the part that Morgan from Google will do. Then Daniel will talk about our contribution to really understand which active part is taking Dynatrace in this project. And I'll round up by talking about the use case. Where does OpenTelemetry provide values to our users?
That's awesome. Yeah. Really cool. Well, then I'll let you run. I know we are already close to getting to the breakouts, so enjoy, and I'll see you later, okay?
Thank you,
Andi.
Welcome everyone, back at Perform. It's another Pure Performance Cafe, that's what I call these sessions. And I bumped into another speaker, another colleague of mine. He's been with the company for how many years, Guido?
It's almost 10 years now.
Almost 10 years. Yeah. Wow. And we found, again, a beautiful spot here at the Cosmopolitan next to a coffee shop. So please, folks, mind the background noise or grab a coffee in case that is kind of motivating. So, Guido, I just want to make sure that people that have not the chance to see your session live at Perform, because maybe they are in other rooms, but obviously we all know that you have the best session, so why would they be in other rooms? But maybe there are some people that are not here and they want to see maybe the recording. What are people learning in your session? I just want to read out the title: Going Web Scale with Cross-Environment Features, Globally Distributed, High Availability, and more. So what is this all about?
Yeah, thanks Andy for giving me a chance to talk about this. It was a great session, and it's really about questions that our customers ask themselves as they deploy Dynatrace at a very large scale. Some of the questions are: how do I enable my dozens of teams? How do I best split up a Dynatrace environment into manageable units so that in each individual team can take full ownership of their configuration, can do whatever they need to do to be productive and leverage Dynatrace in their everyday work, and still maintain the end-to-end visibility. If I have a larger production problem, I need to be able to pinpoint it, and I need to see it in context. I need to understand what's the impact of a problem as well as what's the root cause, even if that spans many different environments, many different systems. If it spans hundreds of hosts and dozens of teams, I need to be able to connect this together. And we're showing you, some of the best practices on how to go about this to make sure you can actually leverage Dynatrace productively and still be in a position to pinpoint, a problem that happens in production.
So if I kind of, from what I hear now, I assume this is then a lot about tagging. It's a lot about management zones. It's a lot
management zones, host groups, you name it. Also, the big question always is, should you have a single large environment? Should you have multiple smaller environments? And if multiple smaller environments, how do you best connect them with each other to make sure you maintain the end-to-end visibility, right? Mm-hmm. Also, another big topic that we've discussed is, with larger and larger installations, many of our customers say Dynatrace for them is like a tier 1 application. It needs to maintain the highest availability standards, and many of our managed customers have asked us, hey, how can I make sure that Dynatrace is resilient to data center failures? Mm-hmm. And of course, Dynatrace Managed has high availability built in, right? If you have a 3-node cluster, one fails, you're still good, mm-hmm. right? But if you have 2 data centers and you want to make sure that your Dynatrace installation survives the failure of either data center, then until very recently we didn't have a very convincing answer for that. Yes, you could take a backup and you could start up a failover cluster in the other. But from an RPO and RTO perspective, so this recovery point objective, how much data do you lose and how quickly can you start again, RTO, recovery time objective, those answers weren't very good. So we've really invested a lot over the past year and a half almost to get this problem resolved and deliver what we call a turnkey solution with premium high availability so that you can install a single Dynatrace managed cluster across 2 data centers in a full active fashion so that if one data center fails, everything will continue smoothly and seamlessly. You don't lose any data, mm-hmm. right? So you have essentially a recovery time objective of 0. You don't lose any monitoring in an outage scenario. And also you don't lose any data, right? Because every data, all data points are synchronized across both data centers. Also allows you to best leverage the hardware because all the nodes would always be active in both data centers. And if one of them fails, our automatic load reduction would automatically kick in, reduce the transactional load the Dynatrace needs to process, and still give you full visibility into your production problems.
Well, it's pretty, I would say, amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
I know. And now I understand why you think everybody's coming anyway to your session right out the bat. But is this session then mainly targeted for managed customers or?
Not at all.
Yeah.
We have a lot of very large SaaS customers, and one of the common challenges that all of our customers face is that of enabling their teams. Mostly what we see with our customers is there is a central team that owns, in a sense, the Dynatrace installation, and they are often challenged with enabling dozens of other teams, right? So we were also showing some best practices, on how to help your teams get up to speed, mm-hmm. what you can do in terms of making sure they can quickly start with Dynatrace, making it easy to get the word out, and actually help them from get to crawl, walk, run very quickly. And we've some great examples about that as well.
I have one more question for you. I know we have obviously a growing customer base, and customers themselves also grow. But then on the other side, we also, as Dynatrace, as the platform, we're always getting faster and we scale better. So I think we have situations where customers may start with 2 or 3 environments and are now consolidating. Right? Is this also a use case that you are going to address and discuss? Like how can you go from, let's say, 3 Dynatrace environments that you had in the past for whatever reason, maybe organizationally, but maybe also because in prior they didn't know how to do it in a different way, now to go back to, let's say, one large environment? Is this something you cover?
Generally, overall, the guidance that we try to give is make sure your Dynatrace environments are of manageable size, right? And make sure you can split them, because if you have smaller Dynatrace environments, it gives you a clearer sense of ownership, right? And it allows you to make sure that your teams are, fully in control of this environment. They own all the configuration there. They can do whatever they need to do, and then we have all the cross-environment and cross-cluster functionality to tie those environments together so you can still maintain the end-to-end visibility. So rather than suggesting to our customers to say, let's put everything in the same environment. If you have 2 or 3, let's consolidate. We say, yes, let's maintain this end-to-end visibility, and we have a lot of capabilities, and we're showing this also in the session, where customers can really make sure they understand problems end-to-end across environments, across clusters, even across managed and SaaS. So if you have a managed cluster and a SaaS environment, you can connect those together as well.
That's awesome, because I think I hear this a lot from customers. They have certain groups that, for whatever reason, have to have managed, but then there's others that just start with SaaS because that's perfect for their type of application. Or their type of environment, and now they end up with a mixed environment, basically. And obviously with Dynatrace, we support visibility across all of these types of environments.
That's really, really critical for us. It enables us to scale better and really make sure that every team is fully in charge of their Dynatrace environment. So yes, that's critical for us.
Very cool. Well, Guido, I hope you get, everybody's obviously watching your session live. In case not, hopefully they watch the recording. Folks, remember, the session is called Going Web Scale with Cross-Environment Features, Globally Distributed, High Availability, More. Yes, it is a long title, but there's also a lot of great content in there. Thank you, Guido.
Thanks, Andy.
Bye-bye. Welcome everyone to another episode of Pure Performance Cafe. We're still in Vegas here at Perform2020 in the Cosmopolitan, and I just bumped into another colleague of mine. Mike, how are you?
I am doing great.
Here we go. Perfect. I know I always love Perform because there's a lot of energy, but it's also very busy, right? There's a lot of stuff we inhale. I just enjoy the fact that we get to share our ideas, but also consume a lot of new ideas from customers. How about you?
Oh, I concur. So, a lot of what we're going to be talking about in my session today is some of the great work that Christian at ERT has done to kind of help implement the ideas around building resiliency into their pipelines.
Oh, that's awesome. So actually, I wanted to talk about your session. So you just mentioned Christian Heckelmann from ERT, German-based company, and I think the session, I'll just read it out here, build resiliency into your continuous delivery pipeline with AI and automation. A very, I think, lofty, a lot of cool terms in that title, obviously. I'm wondering who came up with that. But so, Mike, unfortunately, not everybody's going to be a performer, not going to be able to join your session. So what are people going to learn in case they make it live or in case they're going to watch the recording? What are you going to teach them?
Yep. So there's a couple of really kind of, in my opinion, key takeaways from my session. A lot of it is going to be a pretty deep and technical dive into some of the APIs that Dynatrace is offering. But the goals of the session are a couple of kind of key topics that I've been talking about for quite some time. And the first thing is ensuring that your monitoring solution, obviously it's Perform, so we're talking about Dynatrace. It's ensuring that Dynatrace is aware that the deployment events are taking place, right? So I'm going to be talking a little bit about, what are the payloads for deployment events that will make it into Dynatrace, which is really important because then Davis, the root cause analysis engine, will include those events in that data in terms of possibly detecting a problem with that most recent deployment, right? So that's something that I find really valuable, and it has relatively low risk to include that in your pipeline. So every time I talk to people about this, I say, look, you just need to do this, period. Just do it. It's low risk, high reward. The next thing then is quality gates. So you and I, Andy, have been talking about quality gates one way or another for, like 6 years now. We've been telling this story for a really, really long time. And we had some really catchy slides about that way back in the day. And, about, that if folks are interested, they can, probably look those.
Actually, Mike, I looked it up because I prepared for my presentation, and it was 2011 when I used the table view with the free builds. And so it was 2011 when we first talked about metrics-driven quality gates.
Yep. And well, we had another slide that was a little bit more cartoony, and it had folks kind of shoveling a nameless brown substance into a pipeline, and then that same nameless brown substance was coming out the end.
Yeah.
And that was a slide that I had delivered main stage at CF Summit several years ago, and it actually got retweeted by some big names at that point in time. So it was a really catchy topic, right? But when we talk about quality gates, it's really ensuring that your pipelines are able to take a set of data and validate that data. And what we're doing now is we see the rise of SRE, right, and the SRE principles as espoused by Google as the way to operate your environments as an engineer would. So we talk about defining our service level objectives, which is how we want the system to behave, and then the indicators, which is how we measure it's behaving that way, right? And we've implemented those in a pipeline. And what I'm kind of walking folks through here is, what are the metrics that are interesting? How do you interact with the Dynatrace time series API to do that? And then, it's really great and easy to use now with the Captain quality gates that the Captain team has come up with. And one of the things that I'm personally most excited about, and perhaps you can even hear it as my voice goes up a little bit in pitch, is the custom service metrics.
That's
right.
really cool.
So with our new time series API and with custom service metrics, we can actually take and basically utilizing headers in our performance test, mark the requests as coming from a performance test, and then validate just those requests as part of our pipeline. Because with the custom service metrics, we can go back and look at data just for requests with that request attribute, and that is. I am really excited that we're able to do that now. Like legitimately excited, not just being an employee and being excited about something. This is something that I'm legitimately excited about.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about this, we're not only talking about metrics like response time or failure rate, we're also talking about these metrics that we've been preaching about a long, long time, architectural metrics like the number of database calls that are executed, the number of service round trips, and all that stuff.
Yep. Yeah, and even simple things like just validating that the number of instances that we've asked for were actually delivered.
Exactly.
Right. And these, and those architectural validations are something that, it really kind of take the insight that, a solution like ours can provide and really help you, build that much more resiliency in the things and making sure that, the things that might have passed the unit test in reality might not pass.
So very cool. So you talk about quality gates, you talk about SLIs and SLOs, talk about the API. Christian from ERT, I've wrote a couple of blogs with him, thanks to all of his work. Can you quickly kind of give a glance on what he's going to talk about and what he's going to show?
Yeah, so a lot of what I'm talking about is theory. Christian is going to talk about what he's done in practice. And that's always really amazing. And I have to give just an extra super, the biggest shout out I can possibly give to Christian. My hot day that I did on Tuesday, a lot of the content in that hot day was actually originally developed by Christian.
Awesome.
So it actually saved me quite a bit of work having to develop something like that from scratch. But Christian is going to be giving the examples from his pipelines of where he's implemented things like quality gates. But he's also going to be talking about something really, really cool. He built a Kubernetes operator that will automatically create Dynatrace synthetic checks for services that are deployed in his Kubernetes cluster. And that is just the world's craziest thing. And again, when we start talking about how do we do things like autonomous cloud and how do we eliminate, human error, right? We talk about automation. Yeah. Right. And here we've actually taken that automation and built it into Kubernetes then at that point. right? So anytime somebody deploys a new service to that cluster, we're automatically going to have a synthetic check created to validate that.
Yeah, that's perfect, because that immediately then alerts you in case the deployment actually didn't work as well, and then you can roll back, which means in the end you have a more resilient, stable system, which is just awesome.
Exactly.
Very cool, Mike. Hey, I know you got to run because your session starts probably very soon. Thank you so much. Let's get together later on at the end of the day and grab another beverage, because I think we both deserve it.
For sure. Or, water, because it's Vegas and we're all going to be parched. So we're obviously only going to be drinking water, right, Andy?
Yeah, of course. That's what we tell our parents at home. All right. See you, Mike.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.